Hello, and welcome to what might be something just like a one-off, or it might be the start of something new on the channel. I don't know. You decide, I guess. So yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of me starting EBEZA Reacts, and I thought it'd be a fun little thing to do to celebrate the anniversary like it was a traditional wedding anniversary. And the traditional first wedding anniversary gift is paper. And I thought, to celebrate and to mix paper in somehow, I would do my first ever book review. Now, I want to caveat this by saying I'm not like the biggest reader in the world, so even if this became like a regular thing, it would be sporadic. But I read a book over the sort of Christmas season, holiday season, that I thought I could give some thoughts on, that I've been wanting to read for a little while. And that book is The Satsuma Complex by Bob Mortimer, who, for those who don't know, which if you don't, get on YouTube and search for Bob Mortimer highlight clip compilations. He's hilarious. He's a British comedian. He's been going for a long, long, long time, since I was a kid, at least, probably longer. And I'd say some of the things he's most famous for, there was, in the 90s, there was Shooting Stars, which was like a surrealist comedy panel show, and then more recently he's been on Taskmaster, and he's very famous for his stints on Would I Lie to You, which is like a panel show where basically they tell each other a story about themselves, and then the other team has to decide if it's true or false. And Bob Mortimer is like one of the most infamous guests on it, because some of his stories are absolutely crazy, and whether they're true or false, he has this way of telling them that really puts the other team in a lot of doubt. Anyway, that's Bob Mortimer. Very funny, one of my absolute favourite comedians, huge fan. But here to talk about his debut novel, his first book, and I know there's a second one, and I currently have the second one. I received it as a Christmas present, which was very kind. And I will be reading that and may do a review of it if you guys want to see it. But yeah, the Satsuma Complex. How can I best describe this? It's a mystery novel, but it's really not your typical mystery novel. It's, for those who do know Bob Mortimer, it's very, very much in his voice, the way it's written, the style of humour within the book as well, because it is a mystery and it's got like a reasonably serious plot, but at the same time it doesn't take the plot too seriously. It's difficult to explain, but there's a lot of humour interwoven within the plot, within the serious plot, and it's really well written. It's very, very Bob Mortimer, to the point where halfway through reading the book I was like, God, if anyone but Bob Mortimer has done the audiobook to this, it will be a disservice. And I looked it up, and it turns out Bob Mortimer and I believe Sally Phillips have done the audiobook, so I kind of want to listen to the audiobook now, even though I've already read the book, just to hear it actually in Bob's voice. But what he's done brilliantly, I would say, in this book is he's made very compelling characters. There's only really 5 or 6 like main characters to get to grips with, and realistically there's like 3 that are like characters you really get to grips with. There's the main protagonist, Gary, and then there's Satsuma, who does get a name, but that's not till like halfway through the book, so I won't even spoil that. And then there's Gary's neighbour, Grace. I would say are like the 3 main characters that you really get a proper insight into, and then there's other characters. The plot revolves a lot around a character called Brendan, who you get a fairly vivid idea of, but doesn't feature in the main plot a whole lot as an active participant, because he goes missing. And again, I don't want to spoil too much of like the plot for those that want to read it, but yeah, the book revolves around Gary trying to figure out why Brendan has gone missing. And it's a really good read. The characters are so like well formed, especially like I say the big 3, like Gary, Grace, and Satsuma, and the sort of the interweaving narratives are very compelling. But also I feel like sometimes so to give a little bit of context on Gary especially, who is like the main protagonist of the book, Gary's quite normal and describes himself in the opening of the book as quite like mundane, bland. You wouldn't look at him twice walking down the street. Very everyman, very unspectacular. And there's a risk when you're doing a mystery story, be it a novel or a movie or a TV series, revolving around such a character, that they will morph into a hero, into, you know, like they'll suddenly be doing all this sort of actiony stuff, or they'll be solving puzzles that like require like genius level intellect when they've not been portrayed that way. Like, they'll turn into a hero. Gary never really turns into a hero. Gary remains just like an everyman throughout the entire book, and I think that's one of the things I really liked about the way this novel is written, is that the characters stay true to themselves, because it's not told over a really long time. So, like, you get TV series with multiple seasons, for example, or films with multiple sequels, and you can kind of understand the character arc and them slowly becoming more heroic, I guess. This entire book doesn't take place over a long period of time at all within the story. And I think that is very difficult to do and actually have a satisfying narrative and a satisfying conclusion that revolves around the protagonist when you have built the protagonist as being very normal to begin with. Very, like, average, very very mundane, like I said. And but I think Bob Mortimer does a tremendous job of that, and I think the conclusion is satisfyingly true to the characters, and how they actually are as people, as opposed to like some massive transformation being needed for them to suddenly be these massive heroes that they're just simply not, you know, a week before in the story. So yeah, that's something I think my favourite things about this book have been the voice in which it is told, the story. It's very, within my limited scope and knowledge of reading, especially reading fiction, it's very unique, the way it's written. I feel like it's written like Bob Mortimer was making the story up off the top of his head to someone who was typing it out. Now, obviously, that's not to say it's like rough and unstructured and blah blah. It's obviously been through a very rigorous editing process to make it like a very well constructed story. But in terms of the voice used, it very much, like, I'm not scripting what I'm saying right now, and it feels unscripted in a bizarre way considering it's a book. It's literally all written down, but it feels like it was written almost unscripted and then just tweaked in areas. And to be honest, if that's how it was done, Bob Mortimer's a genius. And if that's not how it was done, which is more likely, he and his editor or editors are geniuses for doing such a good job of making it sound like that, if that makes sense. So no matter how right or wrong I am, I think it's only praise to say that. So yeah, the voice is one of my favourite things. Like I say, the truthfulness and the integrity of the characters and the way they stay themselves is another big thing for me. And I think just the characters in general are really well constructed people. There was a pretty decent twist. It's not like a sensationalist, mind-blowing twist, but there was definitely a bit towards the end of the book that I really didn't see coming, and then after I'd read it, I was like, oh yeah, no, I really should have seen that coming. And maybe you did, or maybe you will if you read this book. But for me personally, and I'm reasonably good at spotting twists, I just never even considered a little bit of the twist coming. So that was a really nice experience as well. Overall, I genuinely cannot say enough nice things about this book. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's only a short book. It's oh, hang on, I'm in the thank yous bit. 298 page 298 finishes on, and that's only like 4 lines. So it's less than 300 pages. I read it in like an afternoon. Did I go into a second day? I can't remember, but I read it in either basically one sitting in an afternoon or 2 sittings over like an afternoon and then the next, like the daytime of the next day. But it's not a long read. I don't think it's a particularly difficult read. It's not like really complex, even though the name is the Satsuma Complex. It's not like really complicatedly written. It's not really sort of technical. It's it might be quite tricky to get used to the voice if you're not used to how Bob Mortimer talks, especially if you're not a native British English speaker, and especially if you're not well, not especially, but also if you're not Northern, because it's written in a very Bob Mortimer Northern, down to earth, working class man kind of way. So maybe I found that quite easy because I am Northern English and what have you, and used to that way of speaking. So maybe other people's mileage may vary on that. But what I mean is it's not like really technical. There's not loads of terminology. There's not loads of knowledge to take in from someone's like occupation in the book or whatever. It's very, I thought it was a very easy read. And I just genuinely can't think of really anything bad to say about it. Even the fact that it's quite a short story, I wondered how easy it would be in less than 300 pages to introduce a bunch of characters, create a compelling narrative, create a satisfying conclusion, and fit all of that into such a short space. And yeah, I don't think this book needed to be any longer. I don't feel like, when I finished reading, I didn't feel like, oh, this person could have been fleshed out better, or this scenario maybe could have lasted a couple more pages where maybe the tension wasn't there, or the detail on this was lacking. There's a tremendous amount of detail in a lot of things for such a short book, and yeah, I genuinely cannot think of anything negative to say about this book. My personal experience was that I thoroughly enjoyed it and would recommend it to anyone I knew. And when I say anyone, I mean borderline anyone, because even if you're not like a big mystery person, it's charming. It's a lovely story that has a mystery in it. It's not like a really intense kind of mystery detective gritty crime novel. It's, and if you're not necessarily into that tone, I think the mystery and the plot is compelling enough that would also be able to draw you in. So even if like one element of it isn't specifically your cup of tea, I think it's good enough at all of the elements that you could still enjoy it. So I would borderline recommend this book to anyone, which is probably the best thing I can say about it is read it. Thoroughly recommend. I don't know how long book reviews should be, without going into talking about actual plot points and spoiler territory. I don't know really what else I can say about this book, except I really do thoroughly recommend it. And I've not listened to it yet, but if you're more of an audiobook person, the fact that it's narrated by Bob Mortimer and Sally Phillips, who is another British comedian, who I believe Bob and Sally are reasonably good friends. They were on the same season of Taskmaster together, and I don't know, I can imagine them being quite good friends. But the fact that it's narrated by them, I already know I can recommend the audiobook to you without having actually listened to it, because the whole book is written very much in Bob's voice, and Sally feels like a really good choice to be the female representative for female characters of Bob's voice in the way it's written. So I'm slightly surprised it's not just Bob talking like this for the female voices, but obviously not. But it's that kind of book where it's written in a very specific way, very specific vernacular, and really enjoyable. So yeah, I cannot recommend it enough. If you've read this book and want to discuss it further, leave a comment down below. Try and keep it spoiler free, or at least the bit before someone has to click read more. At least keep that bit spoiler free, and maybe put a warning that there's going to be spoilers if you're going to discuss spoilers. But yeah, I'd love to know other people's thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like me to do more book reviews, like I say, let me know in the comments, but also leave a like, subscribe, all the usual good stuff. It'd be greatly appreciated. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been EBEZA, you've been amazing, and I'll see you next time.